Live streaming is on.
You did it.
Is that what you were waiting for?
That's it.
All right. Hopefully we can get it processed appropriately or wait for Dan to do it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Welcome to the December meeting of the Linux users group. Seems to be light attendance today, so we'll probably just talk about whatever. I think since Gene has gone AFK, we'll wait for him to rejoin us.
I'm still around. Keep
Okay.
talking.
All right. Well, let's see what Larry has going on today.
I don't really have that much going on at this instant, but before the last meeting, I think I upgraded from MX Linux. I think I was at 21.3 and I went to 23.1. So I now
How's that working?
have to get, for dyslexia, I get confused between 21.3 and 23.1. Anyway, it seems I can't tell really much difference between this version and the old version. The only thing was I used BitTorrent client, transmission client that comes with it, and it didn't seem like it was working right. Well, that was like a month ago. I haven't tried fixing it, but I just went back to 21.3, and the transmission seemed to be working like I was accustomed to. So I don't know if something's messed up with it or it was just me. I haven't really looked into it much. So it seems like it's fairly straightforward. It has what I need.
Are you running Mint, Larry, or
MX Linux?
MX? Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying I just upgraded. This is the second time I've upgraded. I went from 21.3 to 23.1, which I think is the latest. And
that's MX.
They're not kind to dyslexic, are they?
That's what I was just saying. I have to get my dyslexia under control to keep track of what's going on with this.
Just as a general strategy, and I don't know if anybody else has thought about this, but now I think MX is a rolling release, isn't it? They don't.
Yeah, they break it. They break it every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, they come out with a new version more than once a year, as far as I know.
Maybe it's not.
The first version I had was 19 something, so I then went to 21.3 and now 23.1. So
yeah,
that's over a couple of years, I guess.
Well, that doesn't sound like a rolling release then.
No.
But for the ones that aren't rolling releases, the ones that have those versions, I generally just stick with the long-term release, just as a general strategy, because if there's ever going to be a breaking that happens, it's going to be in those intermediate years between the long-term.
That's been my experience.
And Ubuntu generally goes, I think, 2 years, or is it 4? I think I'm on
23.2.
No, the odd numbers are those intermediate releases.
23.
I can't. How do you do it? Is it version in terminal? Nah, I can't remember how to do it in terminal, but
show version.
Yes. But yeah, if you get into those alternate years, sometimes they'll bring in new drivers and things that, or leave out things. More often, probably leave out things that you're using but they're phasing out because some of my hardware, and I know yours too, Larry. Some of my hardware is pretty old. So if you've got old hardware, the intermediate releases are a little tough too sometimes.
Well, this is a fairly old Dell Inspiron laptop.
Yeah.
And it came with Microsoft Vista. I think it was even 32-bit, not even 64-bit, but I'm running 64-bit MX Linux.
Yeah.
And
It runs okay on that?
seems to, as far as for what I use it for, I don't seem to have any issues. I mean, it's only got 4 gigs of RAM. And I'm doing this meeting, 4 gigs of RAM. I mean,
Pretty amazing.
do I need more than that? For what? I mean, the kids come in here and they want to watch videos. I'm talking about 5-year-old and 4-year-old kids. They already know about YouTube and everything they want to watch with monster trucks, kids stuff. It's kind of wild to me to look at them interacting with the internet and videos and stuff. It seems to me it's just a total different world now than it. Like I was just telling my niece's husband, for better or for worse, a 5-year-old who is in kindergarten can use a touchpad on a laptop. He knows how to navigate around, find where he can't even read, but he can find the word skip for skipping the ads in YouTube. I mean, it is impressive. I spoke to his mother and father about that. I said, look, wait, is he in kindergarten or first grade? He says kindergarten. And in kindergarten, they said he learns that in kindergarten. That's what you learn nowadays when you go to school, is how to use a touchpad or laptop and computers. Like I said, it's a whole different world from what I grew up in.
Yeah. My Ubuntu release is 2204, so they go every 2 years. And I usually just kind of hang on to it. I know there are different philosophies. Dave DeGraff used to upgrade every time Fedora went to a new one, but if you do that, you're constantly putting a whole new system on your computer. And of course, Dave, being the squirrel that he is, would keep several back versions just to have, I don't know for what, just to have them around, I guess. I don't know. But then, they I get updates weekly usually. So they do update the long-term releases pretty often. What philosophically, Brent, what would you suggest? You're more the expert.
I don't recommend this for anybody, but I'm a pretty aggressive updater. I also don't back up when I update. I only back up my files and such because I think a rebuild is good for the soul. So every once in a while, I'll start from scratch. It's actually been a long time. It's a testament to how good the upgrades are with Linux Mint that I haven't done a rebuild in ages. I don't feel like my stability or the amount of like extra crap laying around has caused me any issues. So yeah, I generally update pretty aggressively. When Mint says there's something to do, I'll do it. That being said, I haven't actually done that on this machine in front of me in a while because I'm really strongly contemplating going to Debian like I did on my laptop.
Well, that's it for me for the moment. Since there's so few people, I'll probably chime in some more.
Sounds good. Gene, what you got going on?
Not a lot, but this morning, my internet was like molasses, and things wouldn't load. The browser was slow and clunky, and usually you get the when you mouse over cursor over something that's hot, it lights up or something, but it wasn't even doing that. And so, what else can you do? I unplugged the router and the cable box, and then plugged it back in, and it seemed to heal the problem. But I've always wondered what causes. I guess it's the router to slow you down, to throttle you down like that.
What is your provider?
Spectrum Charter.
Okay. And do you know like what their infrastructure is? Is it like fiber to like a certain point and then
I
cable
think
to a
I've got
certain
fiber pretty close to the house. They had asked me when I first moved out here in 2016. They said it'll take a little bit longer, but we can wire it up for fiber. So I said yes, please. And so I think it comes either right to the house or pretty close to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's probably be just the router then, maybe worth looking into a replacement. My in-laws are on a cable modem and they have nothing but trouble with it. Whereas I have the French broad fiber here and it's perfect. It just, I mean, not that it never goes down, but
Yeah.
it's very rarely degraded. And when they do maintenances, it's usually back up in short order. So I really have zero complaints. Plus,
Well,
again,
yeah, I don't think it was the ISP. I think it was the router.
right? Yeah.
And I don't know what comes into the house, whether that's a cable modem or it's some kind of a modem that comes into the house that the cable comes into. It's a coaxial cable.
Right.
This thing.
But you should be
Yeah.
able to see if it's a optical cable just by undoing it and looking at the end of it.
If you have coax to the there at some point there's going to be a fiber, and again I don't know the way they build their infrastructure, but if it's coax to your router itself, the weak link is probably that the coax run from wherever it's fiber to wherever it's on your router. So if it's not just the router itself, I would be concerned about and if you could maybe get them on the horn and say, hey, could you test the strength to my router and see what it looks like, and ask around about like what can be done. Because if you have like certain splitters that you don't need to have, if it's not just a straight run from point A to point B, then like one thing, and this was especially true of DSL, but I'm sure it's somewhat true of cable. If your home was built for old style cable, to support like not a dozen, but a handful of TVs throughout various rooms of the house, and all that stuff still plugged in, you don't need it, right? Because I'm sure everything in your house is wireless now, or Ethernet. So the best thing to do is just get a straight home run from wherever it comes into your house to your device,
Yeah.
and then hope the problem
I
isn't.
don't think it's my Netgear router. I think it's the one before that where the coax. What do you? I'm not even sure about the terminology. What is that box where?
That's the cable modem, and that's
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think it's probably either that or the combination of that and the router. Because I unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it works like it always has. But I just wondered what would cause a jam up like that. If there's some sort of
I've had it happen.
or
I think everybody's had it happen. That's the first thing they tell you to do when you call them.
yeah.
Unplug the router and plug it back in again.
Well, that's been the solution for computer problems since the very beginning.
Yeah.
If you didn't like your boot, you
Reboot it.
shut it down and reboot. Yeah.
Those machines are usually the smallest CPU and RAM they can fit in those little. They're a combination router modem, and sometimes the state table gets full, or sometimes there's just they're doing some sort of packet classification, and
You
the
know, I'm
CPU.
going to guess that that's probably what it is, Leander. I don't shut down and reboot every time. I usually just suspend to disk.
Yeah.
And
I
What-
was talking about your router. Your
Yeah.
router. There's they
What-
are usually
One thing to look out for is if your cable modem can be a router, make sure that it isn't, because you might have a router in front of a router. But yeah, if it doesn't like have the capability to be a router, then that's probably not the issue. It's just if it just will have a cable to go to your actual router, and that's what my in-laws router and cable modem are both supplied by Spectrum, Charter Spectrum, yeah, and they yeah, so they have an actual cable modem, they have an actual router, but sometimes you have like a combo device, and then if you want to have your own equipment, you're just kind of like double natting, and you're giving 2 points for you're kind of doing all the same things. So if you could just make sure it's a straight path through, that's probably not the case, but it's worth at least looking into. Does it just have like a single cable coming out of the
yeah,
the cable modem?
back of the modem into the router. Yeah.
Okay. So it's probably just a straight up modem.
I think it is. And there again, it has always worked fine. And I have had little glitches every now and then, and I do what I did this time, which is unplug it, plug it back in, and everything heals up and comes back on, and seems to work okay.
My in-laws have mobility issues, so we've had to actually put like a remote switch on their cable modem to power it off and on. But at least they can do that themselves now instead of waiting for one of us to come by and unplugging and plugging back in.
it's kind of the same issue with the modem as it is the router. Is that those things are. When I was on cable, I always bought my own modem because the one that they bundled or rented to you was barely spec'd to be able to handle the connection that and so it would just the CPU or whatever digital analog chip that they had in there just couldn't. It was barely able to do it, and so you had to.
Well, yeah, this is
reboot
my
it.
router, and when I bought it, it was not top of the line, but up
Right.
there. So it's a pretty good router. It covers a lot of area and very fast. So I'm pleased with everything. It's just I don't understand why things break, because I don't really have an understanding of what's going on behind the little window in those boxes.
They're built to a cost, and when you're buying thousands of them, they just they're trying to save a nickel on every one of them, and so instead of getting they'll get one that's barely good enough, or might have problems 10% of the time, but then they can so I resolved all of my problems when I went with a Motorola. This was back in the DOS's 3 days. Went and bought a Motorola with the DOS's 3 and the gigabit support, and it never had any problems after that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the device they have back there, but it seems pretty beefy, and it's fiber into the thing, and it's a router, and it does the phone connectivity. It's like one box to rule it all. However, since it's down in my basement, I have an access point / switch on the opposite corner, and probably because I'm about to run a cable up to my top level to my son's room, I'll probably put yet another access point up there. So I'll have a SSID I'll have a 1, 2, 3 per 4 SSID all on different channels.
Yeah, so far I haven't needed a like a signal booster, or what do you call it, an access point or something like that.
Yeah. Extender. Yeah. I have got, number one, did I tell you guys that I'm getting fiber to my home on the mountain free of charge because of the federal government is supporting internet to underserved
Yeah, I
areas.
think I heard that they were trying to get everybody connected.
Yep. So
Well, that's great, Pete.
yeah, I'll have to buy some kind of fiber modem, I guess is what they call it. And they told me that's going to be about $150, but that's it. No charge for running the cable to the house. However, they're going to do that.
It's better to
But-
buy it than rent it.
Yes, for sure. If I can get my chance to go, I've got some technical questions.
Oh, I think we're going to run out of time today, Pete. I don't think we're going to have time for you.
All right, I'll try to.
I'll yield my remaining time to Pete. So,
What you got, Pete?
All right, so I was at down here. It's thrift store heaven. It's kind of sad. Why? Because everybody comes down here when they're old and they're not here anymore. But I found a 1 gig, 3.5-inch Seagate hard drive for $6 at the thrift store. And I got it, and I got no bad sectors. It works just fine. And I took that opportunity to install Linux Mint 21.2, I think. It might be 22.1. And if anybody knew how to find out what version we have.
I got it. It is in terminal LSB _ release -A.
All right, I have got no LSB modules are available. Linux Mint 21.2, Victoria. Okay, so I got that. That was a little bit of a challenge, not installing it on that 1 terabyte hard drive. But before the install, you're supposed to verify with checksums the download and something else. And that was not intuitive to me. It took me a bit of poking around to figure out, yes, it downloaded properly. It was like a 2.9 megabyte download. But it did download, and I did install it, and it installed. I think I used, that was another thing. It was not a live CD, it was a ISO. So then I had to hunt around, what's the best way? And I stumbled on Rufus, which I have used in the past, but quite a while ago. That worked just great. That really made it simple. So then I spent 2 days poking at it and making it work exactly the way I wanted, and timeouts on the keyboard and timeouts on the mouse and all that good stuff. So I'm to the point now I want to make a backup USB or what else could it be? Say a backup USB of my existing system. And I hunted around for that, and they said use Clonezilla. The problem is Clonezilla, you have to use a backup medium that's at least as big or bigger than your install, what you're installed, which would be bigger than a 1 terabyte, which I don't have anything close to that. So that's my question. I would like to back up current Mint 21.2 onto a USB stick, or what else could I back it up on? Onto a DVD. I've got a DVD burner I can use. But I don't think it's going to be feasible for me to back up a terabyte. Any thoughts on how to do that?
Backup strategies Mine is basically I back up the home directory.
Yes, but I want to be able to, if my hard drive, crashes and it's not recoverable and I got to replace the hard drive, I want to be able to reinstall my existing system with all my tweaks on it instead of going back to the downloaded version and spend 2 or 3 days tweaking it again.
I think what I would do is to write that ISO,
To a what?
whatever, USB or a CD or a DVD.
Okay. And how would you do that?
Go to like Image Burner, isn't it?
Is that built into Linux Mint?
It's built into Ubuntu, my Ubuntu.
Okay, and I think Mint is based on an Ubuntu.
Yeah, and I think it's probably built into yours.
Okay.
But it's like, yeah.
What was
Leander says he thinks you can clone. What is that, Leander?
I think at Clonezilla you can clone to when I've used it in the past, you can clone to a disk image on a smaller disk, but not like the raw disk. Like it won't be a clone, it'll be an image of the disk, and then you just have to restore from that image. But you can do that to a smaller disk because I'm assuming not all of your 1 terabyte is used.
No,
so when
no.
when you clone to an image, it doesn't clone the empty space.
Okay.
I'm checking.
Clone with Clonezilla.
But in clone, like there's a Clonezilla clone to image, save disk image.
Save image.
Yeah,
Okay.
instead of save to drive.
All right, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
And then what was the one that you said, Gene, you would write ISO using what program?
If you right click on your ISO file,
Okay.
it will give you a whole menu of options. And one of them will be probably write disk image or burn disk image or burn blah, blah, burn medium or something.
And is there an ISO file on my installed version of Mint?
What did you install Mint from?
I downloaded the
ISO.
The ISO, but it's not the tweaked ISO.
No, but the tweaks are all in your, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the tweaks are probably all in your home directory, in the config files in your home directory.
Okay, so if I clone the ISO file and then do what? Also copy.
So then that becomes your boot medium.
Yeah.
If you're going to restore.
Yeah.
So assuming your system's down, you plug your boot medium in, and then get it going. And for that reason, then I would do one USB and one CD or DVD.
Okay.
Usually I do the ISO to a CD, and then boot from that, and then have your backup on a USB. And
that's running the backup program, I guess.
No.
What's my backup?
Your backup will be however you want to do it. I guess you could Clonezilla it, couldn't you, Leander?
Yeah. I mean, you have to boot from the Clonezilla.
Yeah. I use DD, or what's the other one that's kind of another front end for DD?
I don't know about that. There's parted magic or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never used that. But DD works great, and you just Google what to do with DD.
Okay.
And you write the DD file to your USB, and it'll make a complete copy of your home directory.
Okay.
And that'll include all the configs and all the tweaks that you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, you shouldn't have to DD your home directory. You could just rsync it or
rsync is one I
straight
was
up,
thinking about, yeah.
copy it.
Yeah.
Assuming
Yeah.
you use the correct flag.
rsync is a little less clunky than DD. But.
Right.
Okay.
I really, I mean, it just depends. To back up a bit, like there's a lot of different strategies here. Like if you're really concerned with preserving the state of the OS, including install packages and all your preferences and everything, then
Mhm.
you're going to want a backup strategy. So you're talking about cloning, DD, something that you're preserving the entire root partition as well as your entire home partition or directory, depending how you have your things set up. But
Okay.
like what was said, most of your settings are in your home directory. So that's the only thing I ever back up. But I accept that if my disk were to die, like the only thing I have backed up are preferences and files. So I have to go and start from scratch and then install all the packages. And then I could, if I restore my home directory, yes, I'll have most of my preferences, but not system level configuration restored, which on a home machine, there's not a lot of system level configuration beyond the install of packages.
Okay. All righty. Well, that'll give me starting points. So I'll just let you guys know how it goes. um, so that was been interesting and keeping me busy as far as Linux stuff. And other than that, I've been enjoying the warmer
Steve, is
weather.
that Seagate that you bought, is it a spinning disk or a?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay.
But it seems to be in really good shape. And it's fast. Oh, and that was the other thing. It supports, my old system that I loaded it on. It is a 64-bit CPU chip, but it does not have UEFI. It's got the old BIOS. And somewhere, I think it was the install program I ran. Oh, it was Rufus. I had to set it up for master boot record and BIOS were the two choices that made it bootable on my old BIOS system with no UEFI. And the days of the old just plain BIOS have come to an end, I think. I don't think anything is sold that way anymore.
Well, the MBR, and then there's what's the other format?
XFAT maybe?
LBF or
LBF? Oh.
LBA or something.
There's two partition maps. There's MBR, MS-DOS, and then there's GPT is the newer one. GPT.
And GPT is the one where you don't have a limit on the number of partitions, basically.
Okay.
So that's the one I would use.
Yeah, but I think I tried using that and it would not boot on my BIOS system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of the later BIOS, like the Core 2 systems, will do GPT. I think back to Pentium 4, I think you have to go back to the 90s to get something that won't boot GPT. Like, I'm trying to think of how far back you'd have to go. I know Core 2 will do it, and I think the later P4s will do it. And AMD back to about that time too. So, yeah.
Well, I was just happy to get something up and running, and it's fast. I'll say that. I suspend it when I shut it down, and it comes up within 15 seconds. I hit a key, I think, whatever, to wake it up. Oh, I pushed the button on the power button on the box, and it just 15 seconds later, it's up where I had left off.
Is this a desktop or a laptop?
Desktop.
Desktop.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm really happy that I was.
It's a learning curve, but it's fun to do to play around with an install and get it to work the way you want it to do what you want it to do.
It's a real learning experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
All right, thanks, Pete. Leander, what you got going on?
Been a while, I guess. I actually have to get going here in a minute. But that's a good thing, I guess. Most recently, just fighting with Gmail again. They've decided that they're not delivering mail from my server. I've been jumping through hoops with them again. I think I've got it fixed for the 6th time, but I mean, nothing I did was wrong. I literally just changed my SPF record from one correct format to another correct format, and Google seems to like the second correct format better. You could have two SPF records. You could either do it by saying like MX record of the A record of the MX of the domain, or you can actually specify an IP address. I just did it by specifying a MX, which is totally fine. That's a standard way to do it. But then I changed it to IP4, the IP address of my mail server, and Google seems happier with that. But I also set up um, TLS reporting for my domain while I was at it, which that won't affect anything. But now I get TLS reports when I mail things. I know my mail server is connecting with TLS. But yeah, just Google is Google is here to not they are interested in facilitating non-Gmail users from their getting inboxing, as it were. Other than that, not a lot going on. I submitted a talk to the Fedora Creative Summit. I don't know if that got in or not. I guess I won't know for a couple. I think we're supposed to send out the notices next week. Yeah, other than that, just working like a whole lot. So I joked with my coworker yesterday that that's ASU is keeping you from moonlighting as they make sure you don't want to do anything when you get home. So that's kind of been the extent of what I've been up to.
What would your Fedora talk be on?
Darktable and color spaces. They've actually started to add support. So there's a new display transform coming around called AGX that's coming from the Blender world, and just kind of a overview on features and stuff, how I use that. Just kind of the same sort of talk I gave here, just a little bit probably tweaked. So
Is Darktable super compatible with Fedora?
no, it's just that's what I happen to use on my desktop, and I don't know many other places offering a creative summit for Linux people. So I also use it on my Mac, and I actually been doing a little bit of like dev work on it with my Mac with troubleshooting it and finding bugs and stuff because they don't have that many Mac developers. I'm not really a Mac developer, but I'm comfortable with it, so I can do that side of it. But yeah, but that'll be if it gets accepted, that'll be in January. I want to say January sometime. Other than that, let's try to think. There's been not really a whole heck of a lot else. Like I said, when you get home after a 10 or 12-hour day, and then you've got to do some maintenance at night, I just have not been the energy to engage. And I've been messing. The most computer stuff I've done is I've got my computer museum upstairs, and I've restored a couple of old Power Macs, and I can go up there and play old video games on some old. I've got a Pentium 3 up there. I'm kind of working on now, and I actually stuck an SSD in a Pentium. I got a IDE to SATA adapter and like a cheap $20 Transcend 120 gig SSD, installed Windows 98 on a SSD and a Pentium 2. So
Is it fast?
oh yeah. So yeah. But I bet mostly if I do any tinkering with tech stuff, it's that dinosaur stuff. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a different sort of learning, isn't it? To go to become backwards
Yeah.
fluent, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of it is just, I mean, I did electronics work in grad school a little bit, so like a lot of it is that's an item on my Christmas wish list is a hot air solder station, but
Good luck.
is to recapping and troubleshooting those old boards and stuff like that. I've got an SC30 that needs a recap. and I've got to order some capacitors to replace some power supply at an old Mac, and um, I actually just recently picked up a 256K L2 cache from my old Power Mac, so I'll improve performance. Like back then, you could just stick the L2 cache in a socket. So, yeah. So I'll get to use all 110 megahertz. So I'll watch out. But yeah, that's been fun. It's just I've been like I said, it's just man. I think ASU's. I made it. The two jokes I've made about that is I think that they're retroactively clawing back any life balance you might have gotten during COVID, and they are. I can't complain too much. I mean, ASU is growing. Kind of. There's been a lot of negative press, a lot of it warranted around how it's been growing, and they're definitely appealing to a type of student that's likes to party a lot and isn't necessarily interested in the academics. And but I will say that the positive of that is like UNC Greensboro and Charlotte have had to lay off people due to declining enrollment, whereas we're still growing, which is keeping me in a job. So I can't complain too much about that. That's yeah. Um, UNC Greensboro's got 100% admission rate. If you want to apply down there, you'll get in because they have lost 3,000 students since 2020
Wow.
enrollment. The whole system is losing because the value of a college degree. We're getting into a point where it was about 15, 18 years ago was the economic downturn, and whenever there's an economic downturn, there's a crash in births too. So we're getting into like a natural kind of population bottleneck, and so it's a rough time for higher ed. So, like I said, well, I've been critical of the administration. I'm glad we're not recording.
We
And
are.
the way that we are. No, okay. But I've been critical and deservedly so. I am thankful that it's better to be too busy than to be laid off. So
Sure.
Yep.
And having gone to a party school, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I went to East Carolina, and
that's what we are. That's what they've started calling us. Is Mountain ECU. We are Mountain ECU. I mean, that's how our
nice
recruiting
to
during the
know that
pandemic.
my school is recognized as
Yep.
the party school.
Our recruiting during the pandemic was literally, oh, you can't party on campus, but there's just 2 bars behind the math building, and we don't. I mean, the town complained to ASU to try to shut it down, and ASU was like, it's not campus, we can't do anything about it. Like, so yeah, they totally during the pandemic were just like, come up to ASU, you could still get drunk and high off your ass, and we won't do anything about it. And that's. Yeah, as someone who lives up here, it gets a little frustrating because the lack of respect for and certainly you go after a football game and the whole campus looks like a landfill. They leave trash and liquor bottles everywhere, and it's the atmosphere. 20 years ago when I was a student, it wasn't quite like that. It was like, it's that typical like we're the most important thing in the world, and we're not going to. Oh, yeah, and the school has the nerve to ask for volunteers to help sort trash for recycling after a football game. And I'm like, no, pay me anyway. So
Really?
yeah. I don't know. Just as someone who lives up here, it gets under my skin the way that they treat the area a little bit. But it's like I said, it's good and bad.
Well, just in general, the whoring out to football is to me is irritating.
Yeah. So it's we are a football team with vestigial university at this point. It's definitely they shut down the football team had an away game. They shut down traffic through Main Street, and they had a police escort for the football team charter buses. And I mean, they were just regular non-branded charter buses. You look at them, I would have just thought it was a tour bus coming through for tourism or something like that. But they made a big deal out of it. They shut all the stoplights down and had a police escort all the way to Lenore. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna shut up before I get fired. Anyway.
I went to Florida, so it was a combination of all the things. It's a football school, a basketball school, a party school, and somehow manages to have some successful academic programs as well. It's big enough to do everything, which is good and bad. Nice thing about the way I experienced it is I was in the classics and religion departments, which were not super popular. So I'd still end up in classes with like 8 people, towards, and I did the AP thing in high school. So I was able to move into those higher level, higher numbered courses
8 people,
earlier
but
than
how many
later.
souls, Brent? How many auras were there present?
It was really, I mean, it was very much like a small college experience, because I mean, you're in the College of Liberal Arts and Science, which is a subset of the university, and you're within a department, which again is not, smaller. I'm sure there are some departments like education or business where it's just a crap ton of people, but in those, it was like, yeah, I mean, you know all your professors, they all know you. All your like I did a year of grad school. It's like we were all very tight. Um, yeah, it was great. Um, and yeah, football days are suck. I didn't drive though, so it sucked a lot less for me because if you're walking, because I generally walk, so it wasn't really far enough to bike and have to worry about securing a bike. Um, so I'd walk pretty much everywhere back then.
I've got a coworker who has a house. His parents have lived in Boone, and so they have a house like kind of over the hill from the stadium. And he says that after a football game, they have to remove the officials, and so they have a police escort that blows through his neighborhood at 60 miles. This is like a small residential area at 60 miles an hour with a police escort to get this coaching staff and everyone out ahead of the traffic. And so he was like, hey, people are still walking back from the football game because people in that neighborhood will sometimes rent out their parking spot or something
Mhm.
for $20, side income. And so people are still walking back from the game up over that hill. And he said they just like, he's like, someone's going to get run over. They blow through there. Don't stop. Don't do nothing. And yeah, so it's not even appears it's not even safe if you walk. So, but I don't know why they have to do all that like high. It's all pomp and circumstances. I don't think anyone's looking to assassinate our football coach. But anyway,
Well,
yeah,
at least he's not coaching the Carolina Panthers. That might happen down there one of these days.
I don't really follow the sports, but as I understand it, ASU's not having a great season. So I don't know. Maybe there is some danger for assassination. But I just know the football schedule for when I need to stay out of town. So, yep. But I do need to get going, so we're heading down to Durham tonight. And so I'll catch you guys later. I'll see you guys. Have a good holiday, and I'll see you in January.
Yeah, have a good Christmas.
So
Catch you later.
see ya.
So long. I just thought of another question I have
Go
regarding
for it.
my new install. What would be the easy way to either dual boot or have some way to run Windows 10 on my Linux system? Is that doable?
Yeah.
Generally, the easiest way, the for dummies way I've experienced, and it's been ages since I've dual booted, so maybe someone else can chime in with more recent information. Install Windows first, because Windows doesn't expect to be dual booted.
Okay.
Linux does. So then install Linux, and then the Linux situation will allow you, and of course you're going to want to leave space. I should say that. So when you create the Windows partition, don't use the entire disk. It's going to want to. But then when you install Linux, use whatever's left, and then Linux generally will set you up with grub to dual boot appropriately. Like I said, the other way around isn't true. Like Windows is going to want to claim ownership of everything.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can just look through some documentation and do it the other way around, but just install grub to do it appropriately.
Okay. So use grub.
Yeah, it's automatic when you install the Linux. Not of course when you install Windows. But once you've installed Windows, as Brent says, leave plenty of room. What I generally do is around 100 megs for a Windows partition,
Okay.
and you say you're not going to use EFI, right?
Yeah, I don't have it to use.
Well, at Windows 10, I'm not sure. They may want you to use EFI.
That's a good question.
You might have to research that, Pete. I don't know the
Okay.
answer. But I say 120 megs for Windows, depending on how much you use Windows. I don't use mine much at all, so I
No.
don't get cluttered
I,
up with a lot of saved files or heavy
Right.
disk usage.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take a whole lot. So then do the Windows thing, put that in one partition,
Mhm.
and then when you do your Linux install, one of the programs is gparted. So you can go in and partition your hard drive with an extended partition that'll have all your Linux stuff in.
Okay. Basically, all I use it for is my TurboTax. TurboTax, I don't think will run on Linux, as far as
No.
I can tell.
Probably not. What would you not want to use it online? They've got
I don't like to, because then you're storing all your financial information on their servers, and
I get that, but it is so very easy.
Yeah.
I hear you. I've been buying the disc every year. I've got a stack of TurboTax discs about this high.
Well, that I use that, and I still have the old tech Garmin. I've got a couple of Garmin boxes, and their software won't run on Linux.
Oh, okay.
But the other option, of course, is to use Wine through Linux, the
Okay.
emulator. Brent probably has had more experience with Wine than I have.
I really have not. I mean, I played with it once
Or
years ago.
You've had virtual machines.
Yeah, that's another option is just spin up if all you're doing is the one thing,
Right.
and you can tolerate a little bit of a performance hit with it,
Uh-huh.
you can just use VirtualBox or QEMU or I think VirtualBox is easiest.
Okay.
And you can just boot an install ISO for Windows, and you can
Okay.
install Windows within. And I wouldn't even worry about registering it for what you're doing, because you don't need to.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
install your Windows ISO in the virtual, and again, you're probably going to want to leave at the bare minimum like 50, 60 gigs for that. Or you're going to run into space issues. It just
I've got
Windows.
plenty of space.
Yeah, Windows consumes so much, and then you build you have that virtual going, and then you only really need to spin it up every once in a while to run updates. You don't want to leave it the whole year without updating, because then
Right.
you're going to be spending most of the day updating and not doing the work you need to do. So maybe just try to spin it up every once in a while to update it and make sure it seems healthy, shut it back down, and then spin it up on when you need it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, a whole backlog of Windows updates literally takes forever.
I have 2 virtual machines. In fact, this is a new process. I may have mentioned this last time. I don't know, but I don't remember anything anymore. So you're going to hear a lot of redundancy from me these days. We have a process now. We image workstations at work, which is pretty typical, where there's like a Pixie boot, and it's pushed by an image, and then these package installs from Microsoft's configuration manager. So that's how we end up with consistent builds of our workstations. Historically, for testing, I have just straight up installed from ISO, but I end up with a testing platform that doesn't really mirror what we use. It's a base install, and it's good for some things, but it's not as great of a test for interoperability as actually using the images. And I don't want them to ship me a half a dozen laptops to test on, and have to worry about those. I would rather just use virtuals. So what we have done is we have a virtual, like a VM Workstation Pro, sitting on the subnet where the imaging happens, and we're able to actually boot into the imaging program and image there. So then I create the virtual image just like we would create a workstation image. And then once it is completely done and baked in, we shut it down. I say we, it's me. And then I FTP it to my FTP server on site. And then I pull it down from my FTP server to my Linux machine and then spin it up in VirtualBox. VirtualBox can handle VMware virtual disk files rather easily. So I just create a new virtual machine, point it at the virtual disk. So now I have a freshly imaged standard work image, Windows 11 and Windows 10 that I can then test on. And I will be very shortly testing, deploying some software. And it's kind of a worst case scenario because I'm completely off the network and relying on the VPN infrastructure that a lot of people are. And the performance is kind of crappy because it's this Pentium
Oh,
G4500 or something. So it's got plenty of RAM. That's the only thing it has got going for it. But it's kind of a worst case scenario. So it should be a very good test for making sure that things work like they're supposed to. So I have so that's what I use VirtualBox for. Although I have moved from VirtualBox to QEMU for my laptop, and what I'm running on QEMU. That QEMU is just the sort of the native hypervisor for Linux virtualization. It's VirtualBox is like an Oracle product. QEMU is the full open source Linux thing. And I am running Kali Linux, which is the security distribution on my Debian workstation. So I can basically, I wouldn't want to run Kali as a daily driver because it is very security focused and has a lot of things turned on that shouldn't be turned on a user workstation, like accepting really old versions of SSL and so forth. Because if you're going to test to see if they're available, you have to be able to use them in OpenSSL. So it's got a lot of tweaks that I wouldn't want to use. So I'm not going to just plain install it on that machine and then dedicate it to that. Instead, I can just bring up this virtual instance of Kali and run the tools from there. So I have on my hand, I have 3 machines in front of me, and my Windows machine is just my work machine. It's only the one thing, but the Linux machine I'm on now has the 2 virtual windows on it, and then my other laptop has itself and another virtual. So have a lot of machines for just 3 machines.
yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Steve,
No, you're late, Steve.
Yes. This is correct. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. I'm going to try to avoid problems. I'm going to try to use the headset. It may not work because I'm doing it after the fact. So we'll see. Hello.
Hi.
Whoa,
Let's
not
see
many of us here today.
Let's see if it does anything. So you're still probably hearing me from the microphone.
Yeah,
Yes.
nothing changed.
Oh, well, I can hear you in my headphones now. That's
Wow, miracle.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Hello.
No, it's not your mic. No.
Okay. Well.
This is good enough.
Okay.
So I just kind of finished talking. I think we've been through everyone else, so it's good timing. You didn't have to hear the rest of us talk nonsense, but you get to say your piece.
Oh dear. Well, most of it has been. Let's see. Has been not computer stuff. It's more been disease stuff. Just traveling. We are making the acquaintance of the Duke Medical Center. For a lot of testing, and my wife I think I mentioned my wife had surgery there. So because of I don't know if anybody knows the situation in Asheville, the local hospital, which was a level 3 or level 1, whatever, it was a fairly large hospital for the region. And it was taken over as it was a nonprofit and the community could no longer support it completely or didn't put out enough effort to whatever. So HCA owns it.
Or the
and
directors
there's been
were bribed.
issues.
Yeah, the directors sold out and made a lot of money, and now it's a for profit.
Yeah. Well, I think that it was a nonprofit. It was a community board. I don't think they made money. I think the guy they brought in from Pennsylvania, who was the head of operations or the CEO, got a job with HCA. I don't know the details. Anyway, leaving that aside, because what the heck, this is the U.S. You're supposed to be able to make a lot of money, right?
Unless you're a nonprofit.
Yeah, then you have no. You can make a lot of money. You just can't make.
Well,
a
yeah,
profit.
you just spend it on, and what they did, they spend it on upgrades.
Well, I think they did a lot of downgrades myself, especially in terms of apparently staffing. A lot of the staff has complained over the.
Oh, no, I was talking about when it was
He was talking about the old people, the new
Oh.
ones.
Well, I
They
don't
build
know.
a new parking deck every year with the money they made. Yeah,
Okay,
but HCA not so much.
yeah, you may know more about that than I do. I would go there. First year when we lived fairly close, I went for the morning conferences that cardiology had on Tuesdays, and I used the parking deck, and it was nice. It was free, and I could get in and listen to the conference, get a little CME, rub shoulders with other local physicians. In the south of Asheville, it became early on too difficult. And I think now cardiology doesn't do that anymore. A lot of that has shifted. There's some feeble CME every week. Otherwise, I'm basically doing my CME online now, looking for free CME as much as I can. But that's rather distant both from Linux and from the interests of anybody else here, I imagine, unless you want to have an insight into medical topics and want to listen.
We're interested in you, Steve.
Yeah, and how is your wife doing?
Yeah.
She's doing, I would say, pretty good. We're both experiencing a transition, I think, from early old age to middle old age, where fairly quickly, I'm a believer in stage theory. And I think we've gone through a transition and now are experiencing aches and pains. As I like to say, we've been together long enough that I say oi and she says vey. And we're both, we hold on to each other for dear life now as we walk around. We recently decided to apply for a handicap driver, a sticker, because we're getting really envious of these wonderful parking spots that are fairly close, where you don't have to wait when you go to Trader Joe's and then end up walking an extra 300 feet. So,
But that 300 feet is good for you.
yeah, I know. In principle, it is. It's just painful. It's more the pain than the weakness and instability, but everything helps. So let's see. I'm still a one distro person, basically. And the news that anybody here may not care about is that from Debian, Debian now has circulating, which is our parent distribution from which we are forked, is circulating version 1.0 of Pipewire.
Wow.
But for those who are interested in audio, as you know, the transition was from people using pure ALSA, and those who found that pure ALSA gave them issues because they couldn't understand how to deal with it, like me. Pulse audio was brought into existence, and now Pipewire has been brought in to replace Pulse Audio. And so it's actually going from a 0.3 something to 1.0. So apparently the people behind Pipewire, the developers, felt it was ready. And I don't know if Debian, makes a judgment call on that and says we will not put it in our. I assume that they'll accept the developers because the developers are responsible ultimately. So otherwise, it's been just basic fun on my SID. Everybody here knows what SID is?
What is it?
Oh,
Unstable Debian.
Debian, yeah, it's Debian unstable. So when the developers do their stuff and say, "Oh, I'm going to do an upgrade," or they're working on an upgrade, and so they say, "Let me change this piece of code," I'll send this out to unstable and see if it crashes machines. So unstable are the people with the arrows in their back. So every day there may be 50 new updates, as opposed to the stable where you may go a week or two and then have one update. So I have a whole routine, because you see, running a non-system D fork of a system D distribution, which Debian is, you have to go through perusing every package that's offered to make sure that it doesn't, in some sneaky way, pull in system D. So I do that every day, and I have writing a lot of, this package, and then I check. I go back and forth using apt update and apt full upgrade, and then check with aptitude. Then go back to apt install S, and to just make sure. Now, one funny thing, which you guys may have some insight about, that I'm just a little perplexed about, it's part of the magic of apt, is that if you use apt, you know that sometimes it'll say, okay, these packages are now not needed, and you can auto remove them by using sudo auto remove. It's up to you. We're not going to do it. But also sometimes I'm getting, when we do this update with the full upgrade, we're going to remove these packages. It's not clear to me why they, say we're going to remove them. We're not giving you a choice. These will be removed in this if you do a full upgrade. Because
Yeah, I don't understand why they do that, but you know, it doesn't hurt anything, Steve.
Well, it does when they pulled out Pipewire, and I realized that after the fact, so I had to reinstall 4 packages to re-enable it.
Well, maybe that's why they do the make you auto remove stuff then, because they don't want to pull stuff out that you may want to use.
Well, I think it's peculiar to have 2 removal approaches, and one of them says to you, you can do it if you wish, because we're just informing you. And the other one says, by the way, even though you didn't ask us to remove this, we're planning to remove this package and that package. So it just means it's what you call constant vigilance.
Well,
So
it could be that there's a conflict too that they've
No,
noticed.
because after that happened, I was able just to reinstall them, and there was no complaint.
But it may not have been your box that got hit, but it was somebody else's box got hit when they left Pipewire in there, in other words.
Oh, it's possible.
Possible.
But
I
then
don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
understand
really,
how-
I have no clue.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's the mystery of apt. But if somebody, can explain what that we will remove this mechanism is, I would love to be enlightened. But otherwise, I'll just say, hey, I just got to be careful. And when I do a full upgrade, which I thought was fairly safe, I have to, the same as dist upgrade, but I have to be vigilant. And that's why I go through this big deal where I often do multiple cycles. It could take me an hour and a half to finish an upgrade. And obviously, when Linux upgrades each round, it's doing it in like 5 minutes. It does it pretty fast. So most of that time, I'm scrutinizing an individual package to say, is there something that I shouldn't upgrade about this? Anyway, that's life with a non-system D distro in a system D world. But I apparently there was no room for a discussion of continued fractions at this meeting today.
No.
In honesty, I didn't even look at that problem. I'm just like, my brain is tired, and I just want to scroll Reddit and do things that don't involve my brain.
Okay. Well, I think having blabbed all that much, I will just ask if there are any interesting topics that I might hear a few words about, since there's another 40 minutes. And then if I have some marvelous comments, I'll make them. Otherwise, I'll say, gee, thanks for enlightening me.
I'm curious how often, since it's, I think they describe it a bleeding edge distro, the SID, how often these upgrades happen.
Oh, every day you might get.
Every day?
Oh yeah, this is every day.
Hey, you turned your
So-
hobby into a job, Steve.
So what we have learned today that in some realms, Steve is willing to cause himself additional pain, and in other
Yes.
realms, he is not.
It's
Well,
all
Very
over.
enlightening.
I actually was one of the many people that the lead developer thanked when he brought out the newest version a few months ago because of this, tiny amount of input I provided on Pipewire, early in the game. So, I mean, it's all worth it, 3,000 hours of work for one mention of my name. Hey, I'm in heaven.
Wow.
Have you given up on, what was it, MX Linux you had?
No, I used that years ago. In fact, before it was MX Linux, the original developer, and I forgot his name. I tried that. I had used multiple different. I've mainly done Debian ones, but I know I tried that for a while. I also had done Tiny Core, and I've done Puppy. Those are the major ones that come to mind that I've used. I don't think I've ever done Fedora or let me see, SUSE or Ubuntu, actually. Oh, it says new audio device detected. I can use it. Let me see. That's my headset.
Yeah.
Okay. Headset with microphone test. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Any
No.
difference?
No.
Okay. Let me see if there was a difference in the. I had microphones. Okay, I'm going to put that down and see if it makes a difference. Any difference?
Yes, very
That's a
much
little
so.
better,
You're,
yeah.
you're definitely on the mic now.
That's better?
Yeah, tap the mic just to be sure. Yeah, that's it for sure.
Good.
He's scratching his beard. He's not tapping the mic.
That also gets captured. The beard is close to the mic.
Yeah, I heard it.
Hello, Mr. Comer.
Yeah.
Homer.
Hello, is my mic working?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That's amazing. Okay, that's the second microphone I tried before I turned it on. Well, I thought I would join you guys before the meeting adjourned.
Yeah, good timing because we're starting to run out of things to talk about.
Well, hey, I've actually done Linux things lately.
Ah,
So what you been up to?
yeah.
Well, as you know, I had Manjaro for quite a while. I had Manjaro since there was live meetings up at Asheville, face-to-face meetings.
We call that the old days.
Yeah, and which I miss. I like face-to-face. You lose something this way. I'm looking here because that's where I see the screen. No, I got it over there too. All right. I got a little separate little camera plugged in. Manjaro was very good. I liked it. But about once a month, one of the plethora of updates that happened all the time, something would break. And I was always able to fix it for all these years. But then I had something happened, it screwed it up royally, and I could not fix it.
Mhm.
And unless I went and spent innumerable hours trying to get forums to help me out, I said to heck with it, and I loaded Mint on
That's
this
what I
machine.
use.
Back to my good old Mint. So I've got Mint in, and I had XFCE on it, and I didn't like XFCE seemed unresponsive, so I put Cinnamon on it, and responsiveness increased tenfold. XFCE, which is supposed to be slim and fast, was slowing things down. Cinnamon, which I'm still learning not to hate. There's things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. And then I saw, but it's working much faster. So that encouraged me, and I took advantage of the Black Friday stuff. And I bought a 2 gigabyte SSD drive to replace the existing 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte.
Terabyte, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 terabyte. Or whatever.
You're very old school, Ed.
It's big. It's big. So I didn't. There was actually only a little bit less than the 4, but I didn't want the 4. I said, "What am I going to do with 4?" So I didn't do it. I have not put it in yet. It's here. So Western Digital Blue 2 terabyte was $102, and 160 was the 4 terabyte. And I said, "Well, I just don't need that extra space," so I didn't buy it. I haven't put it in yet.
Uh-huh.
I've been too busy.
What's your plan on once you do put it in and get your system loaded up? How are you going to back it up so that when it crashes, you can restore all your tweaks?
Well, my system is and has always been multiple drives. I have a boot drive, and I have a home drive, and I have a backup drive.
All separate.
All separate and then mounted. When
Ah,
it boots, they mount. So what I will do is I will take the new drive and I will plug it into a USB, and I will make a disk-to-disk copy from the existing home drive.
okay.
They'll be bit for
What
bit.
program will you use to
Uh,
make the copy?
I might use, I don't know. I'll probably just, let's see, I'm trying to think of what I use for backups.
RSync.
RSync. I'll probably RSync it over.
Okay.
And then, they're both duplicates. So then what I will do, see, that's just mounted on top of the home directory in the system. So if I take the home drive out, it'll still boot. It's just
Okay.
most of my files will be gone, but it'll still boot, and it'll still mount the home that's covered up when I mount on top of it. So I will make that copy, and then I will put the drive in the system, and then set it up so that it will boot and mount that. Or no, actually, first I'll boot and then I'll mount it manually. Make sure it works okay. If it works, I'll make sure when it boots, it auto mounts, and then I'll be done. Till the
Okay.
next time.
What do you do with your old home drive?
Well, the existing home drive is a rotating disk, so I will not use it anymore. I could use it, but I don't have plans for it.
So you're replacing your spinning drives with SSDs.
That's correct. To give me a system speed boost.
So you're going to have one 2 terabyte drive instead of 2. That's an SSD instead of 2 spinning drives.
No, I will leave the one spinning drive in. That's just for backup, and I don't care how fast it is. It only happens once every night at midnight. It backs up all of my home drive and certain selected other drives, other files, but mostly just the home drive while I'm asleep. So I don't care if it's slow. It'll stay spinning. And
Do you use a program for that, or do you write a script, or what?
Well, I used to use a script, but now I use the one that comes with the net, which is
Back in time or something?
Yeah, something like that. Lucky Drive, Lucky Backup, I think it is. I use that, and it backs up fine. And so I quit using RSync, and I just do this because it works fine. So I think it'll be fairly painless, but it'll probably take me several hours. And I just haven't wanted to devote. I haven't had the several hours to devote to it. I'm rather busy these days.
So you could take that extra drive you have, and if you have like a USB to SATA interface, you could just use that for your offsite backup. So take your recent backup at whatever time and copy it to there, and then ship it off to a friend's house or something in case your house burns down.
Or bury it in the backyard or something.
I could do that, and I have never had an off-site backup, but I could do that. I could go take it over to my neighbor or two doors down, and who I owe some drinks to. Go down there and say, "Here, we'll have these drinks. By the way, here's a box I would like you to store in your closet."
Now, that's too for our, disaster recovery. Two doors down is not far enough. I think we say 60 miles is the minimum for disaster, because usually disasters don't extend beyond that radius.
Well, that's
Brent,
true.
how far are you from Ed?
Yeah.
I think that would be adequate. Yeah, for sure. You can just ship it to me and I'll put it in my
You're safe.
my cabinet,
Put it in
my
your
safe. I
As
could
long
put it.
as long as you don't need to update it from time to time.
Well, I mean that I'm kind of kidding, but I mean these are the strategies we employ in an enterprise environment, right?
Right. Like IBM with their backups, they were still backing up to reel tape.
Right. We would generally would have a service come and take your backup drives or tape or whatever your backup media is, and then put them somewhere else, but not close to where you are. You know, not in the near. You know,
IBM had a service.
I used to work in Greensboro, North Carolina for AT&T long lines. That's the real AT&T, not the company that calls itself AT&T.
Right.
That's
not SBC.
Not Bell.
Yeah, I probably said this to you before, but I was responsible for the data center there, and we had a number of different systems in there. Some of them, different parts of AT&T own some of them, and one of these systems, they backed up to tape. Well, they had the big drum drives. It was a DEC system, DEC PDP 1170, I think.
Yep.
And they would back it up to tape, and they had to back up every year. They took every tape was duplicated every year because they found the degradation. You know, magnetic tape will degrade over time, and they found a 2-year-old tape would become unreadable. So they would back up every tape that they had in their rotating backups every year. And then they would always send a tape off for offsite storage, and they would ship it to Charlotte. It would be kept at the AT&T office in Charlotte. But that was my first exposure to offsite backups.
But how does that work when you've got somebody who continually changes their the data they're storing? They revise the files, they add files, and you want to back up kind of maybe multiple versions, but certainly you want to continue to have a current version that is being backed up at a distance, like at Brent's house. I mean, you need to have an Uber driver.
They would back up. They had a rotating tape system for their backups, and then once a year or whatever the schedule was, they would send one to Charlotte. Or if some major change, like the OS version was changed, they would go ahead and make a copy and send that to Charlotte. And it was only like a once a year, a major event that they send an offsite tape.
I mean, you have to accept that there are certain things that you cannot recover everything from. So obviously, if a meteor hits the hospital, we're not going to have the backups from the last 4 hours. However,
that might not be their concern.
If someone just deletes something, we will have the backups from the last 4 hours. If your data is that important that you need, even if you lose a complete site, that you need data from 4 hours ago, you're probably backing up to the cloud at this point. Would be the enterprise solution.
Brent,
what about
Brent, you're right on target. You're right on target, Brent.
Yeah.
My important files, I'm a president of the HOA here, and those files are important. And I do this project for my nephew still for his avionics project. And those projects are critical. And so I don't do backups. I actually work with Google Drive as my drive for those projects. So the backups are instantaneous, and they're often wherever Google keeps it, in the cloud that hovers over California, I guess. So I don't back those up, but I have a second backup. So I do that. My file is virtually resident on my system, and it mirrors it. I use a program that isn't run. It's done by them. It's called InSync. That's something I paid for. It's a Linux program I paid for. And InSync, every time I write a file to a local directory called Drive, it instantly copies it to Google's Drive.
Oh.
And so it maintains a copy here, and it maintains a copy of Google. And I also do periodic backups to it's the Git repo. It's not it's the second Git, not the original Git. What is it? Git what?
2?
Oh, you got your original. It's GitLab. So it goes off to GitLab. So those files are all backed up. Well, no, the POA files the HOF files are backed up locally, and they're copied local, and they're backed up to Google. And then the avionics program files for those printed circuit boards are backed up locally. They're instantaneously sent to Google, and then I send them off to GitLab wherever they are, someplace in the world. So 2 separate cloud backups, and then they're also backed up to my backup drive here. So I'm backed up like to the wazoo and duplicated in 2 different clouds. So I feel
So what, Ed, what does not go to the cloud for you?
What?
What does not go to the cloud for you? It sounds like most of your stuff goes to the cloud.
Well, everything, including the stuff that goes to the cloud, goes to my backup 1 terabyte drive. And I do not back that up again. The stuff that's in the other stuff, medical appointment, copies of old bills and files and crap, if it gets lost, it's just lost. I don't care.
Yeah, I think a lot of people value their old data a little too much. I think the only thing I consider to be valuable is the photo library. Like everything else can go away. I mean, if I lose old tax documents, I lose old tax documents. I don't run a business. If I get audited and I don't have anything, it's just going to be like, what did I claim that you're questioning, So
all my photos are once again up in Google Photos. I used to keep copies on DVDs of the photos, and I stopped in about 2019, and I probably should do a second backup, but it just takes too long because the DVDs don't hold enough data. So I have a backup for the ones I really care about are on paper. I do photo books. I found that 98% of the photos I don't care. My wife and I would make the photo albums, and we liked those. After the grandkids, we'd say, well, which one of these do you want? None. We don't want those. So when I realized the next generations don't care, I said, the only thing they like is books. They'll keep books. They probably won't keep all of those. So I back them up to the books, and what happens the rest of them, I don't care. And I kept, the books we discovered in making the books, we don't care about 99% of the pictures we took. So we quit backing them up. We do these photo books. Oh, they got a picture on the front. So this is a cruise we went on. Got the pictures in it. This I like. This is the only one anybody looks at. There's a remote chance the kids or the grandkids might keep some of them, and they might not. That's their business. It's not mine.
Ed, you're the hardware person here. Is there any hardware stuff you've done of interest?
Well, we just had Gen 3 of the printed circuit board made, and it was made in China through JLC PCB, which my nephew's cheap. Since there's no money coming in on that yet, he's still doing cheap. So he used the cheapest company in China, which is the largest and cheapest, JLC PCB. And this time he had them make the board for as much as we could. they can source they can source all the capacitors and resistors, and they can source many of the other things. They'll source most of it if you trust them not to put in some counterfeit. But or you can take everything and ship them to them. Whereupon I'm told that some of the companies will take all those good parts you sent to them, substitute counterfeits, sell the good ones on the open market. So he didn't want to do that. So he had them put in the resistors, capacitors in one part. That's very hard for him to do, to mount. And he does have he has a reflow oven, and there's to come back to him with all of the thousands of little resistors and capacitors on there. He will mount about 20 more parts and then put them in the reflow again for a second reflow. And so they have not arrived from China yet, but they should within a few days. And that'll be exciting. And plus, I'm happy he's going to assemble it. I assembled the last ones, and I've washed my hands of it. He's got the reflow oven. He's got all the parts, and it's his baby, so let him do it.
So is he not concerned, or you're not concerned for him about a counterfeit version of whatever he's creating being produced by that company and then undercut and selling it at a lower price?
Well, they could reproduce it, but they don't know what it is. The Chinese company asks, "What is this? What's it for?" And, it's none of their business. So he just told them it's a stereo equipment, a stereo soundboard or something. Something like it was a soundboard. It's something. He told them a lie. So,
Is the lie plausible, or is it just going to have them, send it to their tech guy to figure out what it is?
well, it's plausible enough that they would see some analog parts on there, but and the techie guy can see there's also a bunch of solid state relays on it. And there's a bunch of circuit protection and a bunch of stuff that goes to connectors that go off board to stuff they don't have and don't know what it is. So it would have to be a pretty savvy tech guy. He'd have to be better than any of the AI to figure it out. It's just, they may have bigger fish to fry than this anyway. Now, if he became very successful and they could and then they could see his sales, and if they researched him and found his sales, they could put two and two together. But thus far, they don't have any information. And no schematics go to them. No board files go to them other than the Gerber files, and they'll have the actual board, and no, I think the chance of them selling anything useful out of this is pretty low. They probably can sell more useful things than this. And the market's very small. This is a product designed for small airplanes, and it's just not a big market.
But not drones.
No, but I saw an interesting drone today. There's a company out, and I think it's Albuquerque, has designed a jet drone, and it's a flying bomb. It takes off vertically, and then off it goes with jet speed, subsonic speed. And it will blow up whatever it hits. But if it can't make it to the target, if something else happens, it'll fly back and can make a soft landing and be used again. So I predict that Israel is probably going to have some of those in the near future.
I mean, I'm sure this is fine, but I, for one, don't want bombs coming back to me.
Well, what I thought about is I wouldn't want it to come back even with a soft landing, because it could be tracked. I said Israel probably doesn't need it. Ukraine may have some of these in the near future.
Right. Yeah, that might be a trouble for them.
Oh, no. Okay.
All right, so that's what I've been doing in the world of Linux. But next time I check in, I will have a functioning 2 terabyte home drive. My laptop has 100%. It has three solid state drives in it, and it is as fast as greased lightning, running the exact same version of Linux Mint that I have here. And the big system runs slower than the little laptop, which is just runs with you click a button, boom, everything happens. It's so fast. But I use the big system because I've got a 32-inch screen.
To answer your question, Steve, I'm using the Jitsi Meet application, but it just opens a browser window, and I can't see what the difference is between one versus the other.
Well, I've got Jitsi Meet in its own window. Is that what you're calling a browser window?
Yes.
Well, I downloaded like the application, so to speak, but all it does is open up. I think this is Chrome, right? I forget what I have here. Yeah, I mean it's I just have a Chrome window.
So this doesn't look like a browser. I'm using Firefox as my browser, but this doesn't look like a browser. It looks like an app window with, that has a bunch of, like a Zoom window would be, which also might be a hidden browser. I'm asking because I notice a lot of the individual videos are flickering back and forth between a video version and just the name, closed off the video. And it doesn't look like Larry is doing it, because it's flickering like 10 times a minute.
Mine doesn't do that.
Are you using Jitsi Meet or using it directly on the web?
I'm right on the web. I'm using Brave browser, which I love, and it's just in a tab. I've got 4 tabs open. That's the 4th tab.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering whether this is a peculiar thing on this machine with this application, this quote Chromoid thing versus running it through the web. It's just that it was working better in terms of picking up my audio and both the speaker and the headphones than just running it through the Firefox browser was doing, which I think is because Jitsi is tuned somehow to Chrome browsers. But anyway, I didn't know if anybody else was using this particular app and was having the same thing where people's faces were flickering back and forth between just the name on a black screen and their actual video. It's especially the case with Larry. I thought it might be an automatic way of dealing with the amount of video or the amount of bandwidth. Yeah.
You may have a bandwidth issue.
I don't know. Mine is, how does mine look to anybody?
It says non-optimal according to
well, I don't even see your thing. No, Larry, I see nothing on you. It's just a blank screen.
Like everyone else's seems to be green, but yours is, well, now it says good.
Oh, yeah, now it's green. I see what you're looking at. Yeah, it was sometimes yellow, but okay, it's just a curiosity.
You're just a black screen for me.
I am.
Everybody is.
Really?
That's interesting. And you're using...
Well, Gene's got a big letter G on it, but everyone else has nothing.
Huh.
Well, Pete Smith on mine, when it goes, it's PS, and Larry is LB when it goes to a black screen.
Well, I don't see anybody.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I guess except for Gene, he's got a letter G.
Yeah, Gene is not showing video right now, but everyone else I have.
I think that's because he's doing it.
I'll see no video from anyone else except me. If I put my own up there, I'll see mine.
Yeah, you're coming in fine. I mean, everybody else, the videos look pretty good to me, which is why I didn't think there was, a big problem. I'm getting yellow now on the upper left in that little square thing. So maybe my face just disappeared for some of you guys.
No, you're still there.
Okay.
I wonder why I can't see anybody.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
It's interesting. What's your connection? Are you getting? What is it reading up in the upper left-hand side?
Good.
Okay.
On you?
On Ed?
Ed is good.
Oh, okay. Does Ed say Ed is good, or do you say Ed is good?
Well, Ed. All right, I'm seeing. It shows a bit rate if I hover over it. It says 0 packet loss, 683 down, 478 up.
Yep. Frame
Sounds
rate
like
is 15.
Good enough.
Yep. And zero lost packets.
Something,
Under
you got
you,
something
under
weird
you, Steve,
Pardon?
under you, I see 315 down, 163 up, no lost packets. But you had a very small resolution, 320 by 180.
Mine.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then
Ed, Ed.
Gene has got the letter G. He's got 639 down, 636 up.
You know, I'm doing this via Wi-Fi rather than Ethernet. Are the rest of you guys using Wi-Fi or Ethernet?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I'm plugged in.
I guess I'm a victim of Spectrum.
Yeah, I use Spectrum too.
Uh-oh. I'm being discriminated against.
What I don't know is why I don't see anybody now. They don't even see me. Let me see.
Something's up. It's that third hard drive or that third solid-state drive you put in there.
The only thing I see is everybody's name in a black box, and I can see your statistics, and I see Gene's letter G.
That's weird.
Call me Mr. G.
I'm gonna go to yours. Oh, let me see. I'm gonna go to yours. I'm gonna say, if I say stop video, does that just stop me seeing your video? What does that do? It doesn't stop Steve, does it?
I still see you.
No, I don't even see me anymore.
Ed, to go back off topic again, it hasn't taken you long to take over, what is it, Rolling Green Village?
No, we have 6 communities. I'm in one other, Morningside. We only have 36 homes. The largest community has 93 homes.
So today that little sector, and then tomorrow the whole thing, right?
No, when my term is up at the end of 2024, I do not seek to continue.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
If nominated, he will not run. If elected, he will not serve.
Well, I'm only serving to help the community because there was only 36 of us. And in any given year that we need directors, we can at most maybe get 3 people that would agree to do it, because half of the other people have already served many times, multiple times, and they don't want to do it anymore. And most of the other half is too new or too feeble. You know, we're an older community, and so you end up with maybe 3 or 4 people tops that would be willing to do it. So I agreed to do it because they couldn't get anybody. So only way I would ever agree to do it is if nobody would come forth and do it. I do wonder why I can't see everything. Oh, wait a minute. I punched the right button. It came up.
What'd you do?
I've got Pete. The only person I have is Pete.
Oh.
Okay, but then you should be able to change to a view of all of us. There's 4 squares in the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I did. But the only person up is Pete. Hey, Pete. Hey, Pete.
Hi, how you doing, Ed?
Toggle it again.
But the camera's over there.
Toggle it again. Hit the 4 squares again and see if you get all of us.
All of you went away. Now I got no video. The only video is Pete, and then Gene. I got Gene's very vibrant G, letter G, purple G.
Right.
Gene, are you there?
It's a perfect G, Ed.
Perfect G.
Yeah.
Well, there's no picture of you, just your letter G. And the only thing I see on me, how come I can't see myself?
Your video settings may be an issue.
Is your camera on? I know your mic's on.
Now I'm going to say stop, and then I'll say restart.
Okay. Now I see you again. It went dark, but then I can see you.
I can see you.
I don't see me. Let's do the 4 squares again. I still don't see me.
You need a mirror above your.
We click the dot. I can say click hide self view. And then I can.
Oh, there's a thing that says disable camera of everyone else. Maybe that's clicked, Ed.
No, that's going to actually turn everyone's camera off for everyone, I think. I've
really?
never actually tried that. I'm going to go ahead and try that and leave you on. Everyone else will probably have to turn themselves on.
Um,
Yep, sure enough.
Yep. I can't
Okay,
see
can you
myself.
turn it back on?
All right, yeah, everyone will have to turn their
Oh,
camera
I
back
see,
on.
yeah. Now
It's basically if to deal with like, it's
There.
so anyone can basically mute or hide everyone, but obviously for privacy's sake, no one can turn anyone on.
Well, Ed isn't back yet. I've got EC.
Yeah,
Really?
yep.
You should be able to turn yourself back. There's a thing there with the camera. Your camera should have a line through it.
It
Right.
doesn't. My camera does not have a line through it.
That means it's on.
That's right.
I don't know what,
But if you go to the settings, why
Try
don't you see
clicking
what
on
the
it.
settings show?
well, it shows the audio is on. It shows the video is on. It
Do you
says
have mirror my video?
no,
checked?
no, it's not in the settings. I think I can go into the, no, let's see, general max,
What browser are you using?
Brave. I love Brave, by the way. Do any of you guys watch YouTube?
Yeah, on occasion.
I watch it a lot. My brother watches it exclusively. He doesn't even watch TV anymore, but he refuses to. He wants to watch it through his Roku device, which means you have to watch all the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I watch YouTube with the Brave browser because you see zero commercials. Zero.
Oh, yeah.
When I click
What do you get?
something, you just instantly watch the video. No commercials. They're just gone. They just completely eliminates them. They're just never there.
That means the rest of us have to watch even more commercials. So
Yeah.
thanks, Ed.
Well, I'm trying to help you out because I know you want to buy some things. Why is Pete the only one I can see?
Keith is just special that way.
I guess so.
His bits are more ambitious.
I reduced my frame rate to conserve bandwidth, so it wouldn't be so challenging to get all the.
Maybe
other-
that's it. Maybe it's a bandwidth thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're slow. You're 143 down, 207 up.
which is adequate. It's adequate for what we're doing. So
Yeah, but I can't even see myself anymore.
try clicking on that camera with a line through it.
It doesn't have a line through it, he says.
Now you're back. I can see you.
Yeah,
again.
we just saw you.
Yeah, but I don't see me on the collage anymore.
Do you have mirror your video checked off?
Well,
It's
I see Brent now.
Okay, what I just did is there is a slider for performance settings,
yeah.
and I adjusted for best performance. Well, I went the second one up actually. So I was at highest quality. I went to best performance. So now I'm going to switch all the way to the best performance. Okay, now I lost everybody. So go to the maybe select the second one there. There's basically 1, 2, 3, 4. If you go to 2, that's where I'm at, and that's apparently what made it pop up for you.
Where are you doing that, Brent?
So I go to
Performance
the
settings.
more actions, a second one down, performance settings. Well, third one if you include your name.
Third one. Wait a minute. The third from the right.
The more actions. So second from the right on the
Oh,
toggles
yeah,
on the bottom, and then basically from the top you have the name, invite people, then performance settings.
Yeah, and then which one did you
I
pick?
went at the highest
Yeah.
quality.
Then I went to the second of 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that got everybody up here with, admittedly lower quality.
Second of 4 from the left or the right? The second lowest or the second highest?
The second to lowest, yeah.
Second to lowest. Okay. Let me do that.
Well, mine's working fine on highest quality. Why
Well,
is that?
Pete went away.
Yeah, we're trying to help. We're trying to help Ed.
Well, Pete went away, but I got Brent.
I went away.
Yeah, you're gone now. It's got a PS.
All right. How about me, Ed?
No, you're not there either, Steve. You're just a blank black screen.
Really? I don't even have a letter.
No.
Steve, you're a non-entity.
I'm going back to high
I
quality.
was always fear of that.
Well, I'm going to go to more actions. I'm going to say performance, and I'll go to the absolute lowest.
Oh, that
Nope.
killed everyone for me.
That killed
No, it
you,
just
Ed.
Ed went to nothing, and Brent just went to nothing, and everybody else went to nothing. Yes,
Well, how can I kill everybody else?
you're
You-
magical.
Now you're back, Ed.
Yeah.
I'm
Did
back.
you change anything?
Well, I just went back to the second position of best performance. But Brent's there, but he's the only person there.
Really?
I'm about 2 keystrokes from ghosting
Okay,
all of you
Steve,
guys.
when I click on you, so I'm not seeing multiple people at once. If I click on you, I see you. Oh, now you want to weigh in. Now the letter S is there.
The letter S?
Yeah,
That might be me.
That's you.
Oh, I saw your face, and then you went away. And then the letter S came. Now they're both gone. It's nothing but a black screen.
It's bandwidth.
Yeah, it says bandwidth.
Ed, how do you get 3 physical drives into your laptop? 3 of those solid state drives.
Well, I got one drive that's in there. It's intended to have be in there. So the small drive.
Yeah.
Then I have an adapter. There's an adapter slot where you could put a DVD in, but I can pull that out, and I have a second adapter that came with it. You can put a drive in and put that in. So that's my second drive. And then the third drive is an M.2 slot.
So when you say you put a drive in, you're putting in a solid state drive.
Yeah, I put in a regular solid state drive just like the other one because
Okay.
it's got a spot to take a regular SATA drive. And then there is a SATA drive in there. So that's 2 SATA drives, one of which is quasi-removable. And the third drive is an M.2 drive because there's an M.2 slot.
Okay. And that's all inside your laptop?
It's all in my laptop.
Is that second drive spot also where you might have an optical drive, or is that just
Yeah.
dedicated?
Yeah, the removable would be an optical drive, which I have. But
Okay.
I took that out and put another because I don't ever use it. I have a DVD burner that I can plug into USB slot, and that's fine. I don't need a physical slot.
Right.
Ed, what's your brand?
I'm going to show you. And I was very careful about this brand. I wanted a laptop, and I wanted one that was super, super compatible with Linux. So I did a lot of research, and I
Sounds
that
like
the
Lenovo.
old ThinkPads,
Yeah.
particularly the T40, and there's one other one. It's a Toshiba. No, excuse me, a Lenovo T430.
Yeah.
And the removable drive is over here, and that's got the second SATA drive in it, solid state. And in addition to that, there's a slot here that's another removable slot for another removable device. And what I've got stuck into there is reading USBs. I know using camera flash drives. So that's in there into that same removable thing. It's a fantastic machine, and it came. I got it really cheap, and it came with a drive that you can, with a stand that you can put it on the table where it sits at an angle, and it's got plugs in it where you can plug your monitors into that stand, and then basically I can have this as a computer and a keyboard, and just fold the screen backs, and then I can connect it to an external monitor or use this monitor. It's a fantastic machine. It's called a Lenovo T430. It was basically it was unused when it came to me. It seemed to be brand new.
What is a processor?
You would ask that. It's got one.
Present.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the closet there. I've got the stand. It's got a bunch of junk sitting on it.
I think it's called a docking station.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a docking station. It sits at an angle so that the keyboard is, at a nice angle. And it's got all the plugs to plug all the external junk into it. So you can treat it like your desktop.
Yeah, it kind of makes your laptop at top of desktop.
And let me tell you, and this thing is so fast and so good. I love the heck out of it. I only used this for almost 2 years. And then I went back, revived my desktop again. mainly just because the big screen. I was doing printed circuit board design, and I was getting to where I needed a much bigger screen. And rather than doing the simple thing of just plugging the screen into my laptop, which would have been simpler, I said, well, I'll go revive the desktop. But I certainly could have just used the laptop with a bigger screen.
Do you
So
remember
it's got
where
enough-
you bought the T430?
Only threw away the shipping box just about 2 weeks ago because it had everything in there. I'm sure I could find the receipt for it. I don't know.
Curious because Tiger Direct went out of business, evidently.
This was off of eBay,
eBay. Okay.
Yeah.
but I bought it from a guy that had a whole bunch of these, and this was. I don't know if the laptop itself was used. I guess it was. It had a little scuff mark on, so the laptop was used. But the accessories, all of the accessories that came with the docking station and all these extra plugins that could go into the optical slot, as well as the audio and the SD card slot.
Wow.
And all that stuff came with it. There's another model. This is the T430. There's one more. I think maybe it's might be the T440. I don't know. I'd have to look. It has more. The only thing is it has more USB slots than this one. This one has two USBs here and one USB in the back that I use for a wireless keyboard because this has Bluetooth, but the Bluetooth doesn't bring the keyboard through. I don't know what that is for. There's another USB over here. And then there's a jack on the back for some weird, it's this jack. This is some weird IBM docking station for a type of video that you can use it, but no modern monitor uses it.
You know, in addition to eBay, somebody pointed me once to a state of North Carolina, which disposes of things, including from the university system.
What's the site?
Pardon?
What's the
I
site?
don't remember. This is years ago. I looked it up, and I could see they had a lot of stuff. I ended up not really being in the market. I have acquired over the years 3 different machines. One of them was on eBay. Was a brand new Fujitsu from the Fujitsu store, which I still have, and that was 2006, so it's 18 years ago. And my newest one is it's probably 4 years old. So and my memory is only good for 2 years. My personal memory.
My memory doesn't last that long.
Yeah, that's doing really well, Steve. Hang in there.
Steve, I did that with the Transylvania County, does the same thing. And their IT department was they changed all their computers, and they were dumping all the computers through auction. So for the heck of it, I bid on, they had these computers that were, it was a gateway computer. And the whole computer was inside the screen. So it was just a screen on a stand and a keyboard.
Yeah.
And so I bought 3 of those, and all 3 of them worked. And I put Linux on them, and I got Linux working on it, and I thought it was okay, but it wasn't enough oomph for me. So I had a friend that had a son that needed a computer, and I said, "Well, I'll give him one of these if he's willing to use Linux." She said, "Oh yeah, he's fine with that." So I gave it to him. I gave it to him with Linux, and I put all the apps on there I thought he would want as a student in high school. And as far as I know, I think I talked to her about a year later, and he was still using it. I don't know what happened to the other 2. I think I never did anything with them, and I finally threw them in the dump.
Wow.
Well, it is getting to be that time. I'm not going to kick anybody out, but I will probably terminate the live stream now. And I myself have to go. I'm going to have to take a bio break if nothing else. So thanks all for coming. It was a nice, lively conversation, even though there weren't a ton of us today, but hopefully we'll all be back next time after the holidays. So yeah, happy holidays all. And
Okay.
See y'all next
Thanks a
time.
lot. Thanks,
Alrighty.
Brett, for running it.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Brent. Steve, if I find, or whoever asked for it, if I find the information on that laptop, who I bought it from, I will email it to you.
And email it to me too, Ed, if